you smell
what Raw
is cooking?
Afternoon or evening to you, depending on where you're watching us from in the world. Scuderia Rob here, back after a long hiatus. I am very aware that I haven't actually uploaded anything in quite a long time. I've actually lost a subscriber because of my lack of content. I do apologise. Hopefully that one person will return in the future, and hopefully some more. As I say continue, because I haven't really uploaded anything in a little while. My goal is to get to 50 subscribers by the end of the year, but it's looking a little bit difficult. But you can always hope. As you might notice by the title, this is something totally different to what I've done in the past. It's normally been gaming videos, reaction videos, like, well, my reaction to my to AJ Styles' WWE debut way back in January, and that only feels like it was last week. That's insane. My NXT videos, my Shinsuke Nakamura entrance, I think the last time I checked, it's got about 700 hits, which is quite a lot. And it's mostly gaming videos, but as you can tell by my WWE related videos, I am a massive wrestling fan. Predominantly WWE. I do watch some occasional New Japan, TNA, and I actually am really liking What Culture Pro Wrestling. They are quite a decent little promotion considering they're only a few months old. They have certainly had a lot of top talent come in to their promotion to work matches. But as I said, it is mostly WWE. So, in the world of WWE right now, what is happening? So, Goldberg and Brock Lesnar have been announced to main event Survivor Series. There are rumors that Shawn Michaels is going to come out of retirement to take on AJ Styles in the Alamodrome, or whatever the hell it's called, in January at the 2017 Royal Rumble, the 20th anniversary of that show, back in that massive stadium in San Antonio, Texas. The rumor is Shawn Michaels will come out of retirement for one night only and take on the phenomenal AJ Styles. I would personally absolutely love to see that. That would be quite something. But this Sunday in Boston, Massachusetts, will be a Raw exclusive pay-per-view, WWE Hell in a Cell. I'll just run through the 3 cell matches. That's right, there's going to be 3 Hell in a Cell matches on one pay-per-view, which is the first time the WWE have done that since 2009, since the inaugural Hell in a Cell pay-per-view way back when. And I personally didn't think 3 cell matches in one night worked, because it kind of took away the specialness from all three of the matches on the night, which we'll get to in this little retrospective in my first episode of Scuderia Rob Talks, as you can see by the title. But you have Kevin Owens defending the WWE Universal Championship against Seth Rollins in the least interesting cell match in ages, in my opinion. You have Roman Reigns taking on Rusev. Reigns is defending the United States title. I can half see why the feud might warrant a cell match, but the main event, and for the first time on a WWE main roster sort of pay-per-view, if you will, it'll be Sasha Banks defending the WWE Raw Women's Championship against Charlotte in the first ever Women's Hell in a Cell match. I'm dead excited for that match. I think it could be actually quite spectacular if both women are allowed to just do what they want to do. Will they bleed? Will they even leave the cell? There were rumors that Charlotte tried to run a dangerous spot off the top of the cell via Vince McMahon. She suggested a moonsault off the top, and Vince immediately shot it down. So I'm excited. That's the match I'm most excited about. I'm really pleased that the women, like especially Sasha and Charlotte, who have had a really great feud dating back all the way back to January, when Banks came out of the Rumble and basically turned face. I'm excited to see this feud blow off. I want this to be the end of the feud, but let's see what happens. It could be a really good match. One thing about me as a wrestling fan, though, and this is probably why, even though I'm not a huge fan of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view concept, I love the Hell in a Cell match. You ask me what is my favourite gimmick match in WWE or in professional wrestling in general, I would say Hell in a Cell. It's the first gimmick match that really stood out to me as a child. Anytime a cell match was announced for a pay-per-view, you know that, shit was going to go down, essentially. So it's always had a place in my heart, even though the cell match's importance has diminished over the last 5 years, or more really, since the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view was introduced in 2009. The importance of Hell in a Cell as a match, as a feud ender, has kind of been taken away. It's mostly who's feuding over the title in the main event spots. Oh, this person and this person. Well, let's put them in Hell in a Cell. Back in the day, cell matches used to mean something. They really did. You really got the sense that these two men really needed something like a Hell in a Cell to end the problem they had with each other. And we'll get through that. We'll get to that, sorry, in this little Hell in a Cell retrospective. I don't know whether I'm going to do this all in one part. Well, if you know, in an hour's time I'm still talking about this match, then that probably will explain it. But I'm going to go through every Hell in a Cell match possible. I have it on my phone. I have a note here say, you know, listing every single Hell in a Cell match there's ever been, excluding the 5-man Hell in a Cell that was on Raw, which I don't count as a proper Cell match. These are the main Hell in a Cell matches from 1997, over 10 years ago now, right up until WrestleMania 32 with Shane McMahon and The Undertaker. And I'm going to talk about every single match. I'm going to give, if I can, 3 positive points and 3 negative points if it's needed. That's the most I'm giving myself. Oh, I'll be back in one moment. Technical difficulties. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties there, I guess. Where was I? So yeah, basically, in this little retrospective, I'm going to go through every Hell in a Cell match, try and name 3 positive points maximum if I can, and 3 negative. If I can, if they warrant it. If a match is absolutely brilliant and doesn't warrant 3 negative points, then I won't give them. Some of them have nothing but negatives, some of them have nothing but positives, as we'll get into. So let's talk about a brief description of the origins of the Hell in a Cell match, how it became to be. So, in 1997, there was a match between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker at In Your House Ground Zero. Basically, both Shawn and The Undertaker just beat the hell out of every referee that came into the ring, before eventually Tim White threw the match out as a double disqualification. This feud was very personal. Shawn had cost Undertaker the title at SummerSlam against Bret Hart. That was an accident, but then Shawn was, because people were saying, oh, you know, did Shawn do it on purpose? He went, well, I didn't do that on purpose, but I'm going to definitely do this chair shot on purpose. And literally was leveling Taker with a steel chair over and over, bleeding pretty much every Raw in the build-up to this match in September at Ground Zero. It's a great match. Go watch that match at Ground Zero. The New Gen podcast talked about it on their show and made me want to go watch that match, and it's very good. So go and give it a watch. So basically, the Cell match was designed to keep Shawn in with The Undertaker inside an enclosed area with no Triple H, no Chyna, no Rick Rude, or anything like that. It was just going to be one-on-one Shawn and Taker inside the Cell. That's the origins, really. There's not a lot. It's not like, you know, when Eric Bischoff debuted the Elimination Chamber in 2002. He just wanted to outdo Stephanie McMahon. So, let's get started then with that first Hell in a Cell match. It's Bad Blood in Your House, 1997. In October of 1997, it's Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker in the first ever Hell in a Cell match. This match, in my opinion, is the best Hell in a Cell match ever. That's my opinion. People might say that Mick Foley or Mankind versus The Undertaker is the best. Or some might say that, I don't know, let's go with Triple H and Cactus Jack. They're amazing matches, and we'll get into this retrospective. But for me, this is the best, because the storytelling is just top notch. Shawn is scared shitless of The Undertaker. The moment that the lights get raised during Taker's entrance, Shawn is looking around, and it's that moment of, oh my god, I'm going to die. Immediately gets out of the ring, tries to get out or see if there's a way out, and Taker is stalking him immediately. There's an opening spot where they get in the ring. Shawn goes to run the ropes, and he ducks to take a clothesline, but then gets a big boot for his troubles, and Vince McMahon on commentary goes, oh, this is not going to be pretty. And it wasn't. For me, the storytelling is great because Shawn is getting the hell beaten out of him for the first 5 or 7 minutes, and then he takes control. He's in control of The Undertaker. Does the dive, through the ropes, the suicide dive through the ropes into Taker into the wall. Hits a pile driver on Taker on the steps on the outside. It's clever use of his surroundings. Really, he's trying his best to bring out that mean side to him. Then there's the spot where the cameraman keeps getting in the way, and Shawn basically tells him just to piss off. And then Taker back body drops Shawn over the top rope into the cameraman. The cameraman takes a tumble, and Shawn gets livid and just starts beating up the cameraman. Like, just a cameraman just taking, this assault from Shawn Michaels in his rage. He's freaking out. He's inside the cell with the Undertaker. He thought he was in control. He's now no longer in control. Shawn, I think he hits Sweet Chin Music, goes for the pin, but before he can even do that, Taker sits up. And because the AMTs are inside the cell tending to the cameraman, they've got him out. Shawn sees an opening and runs outside, and Taker follows. And then what happens after that is amazing, as Shawn is famously, used like a human javelin into the cell. Blood is everywhere. It's all over the metal. It's Shawn's face, and it's a fantastic visual. Shawn then somehow, to avoid another sort of javelin throw into the wall, climbs the cell, and Taker follows him up. And fair play to Shawn Michaels. He takes a press slam, not a back body drop. He takes a press slam, I think, onto the roof of the cell. It's insane. Yes, he lands on like the metal beams which kind of hold the cell together, but that is still mega brave. And Shawn's 230 pounds, so that's still a fair amount of weight landing, on mesh. And it's not like it's mesh that's like not far off the floor. That's 16 feet, and it wasn't over the ring. So if it'd fallen, he would have fallen onto turnbuckles, onto the ropes, onto the post. It could have been really, really nasty if it all gone wrong. Shawn then tries to climb down the other side, and Taker stamps on his hand, and he takes that bump from halfway up through the announce table. Now, these announce tables were wooden. There was no give. He falls through everything. There's monitors, there's pens, there's everything you can imagine. Like a fan, I think, on there. Like, he falls through everything. He just basically falls through a completely, a table that's being utilized. Taker gets Shawn back in the ring and just chokeslams him off the top rope, gets a chair, and hits Shawn with possibly the sickest chair shot I've ever seen in my life. And Shawn takes it like a boss. He's bleeding like hell anyway, but that shot looks like it kills him. He lies on the floor, and JR screams, "Michael's cranium has just been cracked!" Taker then signals for the tombstone, and then, to get on to my second point, it features the debut of Kane. Now, Kane had been built up for months and months and months, Paul Bearer cutting promos on Taker saying that Kane is alive. Kane makes his way out. This man terrified me as a child. Just look at 1997, 98 Kane. Didn't talk, was huge, jacked. His appearance was almost like a devil. He rips the door off the cell, throws Hebner into the wall, gets in the ring, and is taller than Undertaker. He raises the lights by shooting fire out of the ring posts, and tombstone power drives the Undertaker and walks away. They revive the ref. Shawn has got enough whereabouts to get an arm over Taker, and the slowest free count on the planet signals the finish. Shawn Michaels wins the first ever Hell in a Cell match and becomes the #1 contender for the World Wrestling Federation title at Survivor Series, and we all know what happened there. My third point in the match's favour is that, in my opinion, people say WrestleMania 14 was the true start of the Attitude Era, and it probably was. But for me, this is what kind of kick-started it. There was something brewing in the coming months, and we all knew, and I think, people knew it. But for me, this match, the cell, the blood, Kane's debut, it very much moved away, in my opinion, from that new generation, era that was all very cartoony, and there was race car drivers and dumpster people and or whatever, and it really kickstarted this more violent, edgy product. Because look at the cell, right? We'd never seen anything like it in the World Wrestling Federation up to that point. So for me, this is what kickstarts the Attitude Era, and I don't actually have a negative about this match. I think I basically gave that game away by saying before I talked about this match, and it's the best Hell in a Cell match of all time, in my opinion. And it's the only cell match I think on this list which I'm going to give a perfect 5 stars to, as I just genuinely think it's absolutely brilliant. It isn't as well remembered as, say, a Mankind Undertaker, because it doesn't quite have that famous spot or spots that stand it out. But I think in terms of pure storytelling, the use of the cell, the fact that, in 1997 we'd never seen anything like it in the World Wrestling Federation, it was incredibly unique. And Kane's debut is just the icing on an otherwise exceptionally sweet cake. cake. Can't talk. That's the first match on this retrospective. We're moving on to the second match. Now, whilst this match, I can't really give a rating because it ended in a no contest. It's The Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on Mankind and Kane from WWF Raw is War from June 1998. As far as I'm aware, this was the go-home showing for King of the Ring. It's a tag match. So basically, Kane and Mankind and Paul Bearer had challenged Steve Austin and The Undertaker to team up and face him in a tag team Hell in a Cell match. The cell was above them, so they figured, why not? Let's just have a match inside there. The match never goes inside the cell. It's essentially, Steve Austin comes out, Kane and Mankind are in the ring, and Steve Austin comes out, and Undertaker teases his entrance a few times, but he doesn't come out. He's abandoned Stone Cold. Stone Cold's got to fend two guys against one, and with relatively decent success. Paul Bearer, because he realizes he's safe from the Undertaker, and the fight's happening outside, locks himself inside the cell, thinking that's a great way to escape any potential danger. But little does he know, and this is my positive point for this match, is that the Undertaker is under the ring, rips his way through the canvas, and pops out from underneath and decimates Bearer inside the cell. And the pop he gets is huge. Huge pop. It's a cool moment. And Bearer's like, oh shit, and tries to run away, but he's locked himself inside. And he's got the key, but Taker gets that key, I think. That's how the match goes, I think. Looking back on just my memory, because I've only seen this match maybe once or twice in my life. But I remember that pop being massive, but it was just an angle leading up to King of the Ring. This wasn't really a match. So the segment ends in a no contest, and that's my negative. So positive for that match was the pop Taker got for coming up under the ring, and the negative was the fact that this was not an angle. This was an angle, not really a match. And it ended in a no contest. So therefore, I can't give this a rating because I can't rate no contest. I just can't. Unless it goes like 25 minutes and it's a classic and for whatever reason it's no contest come to finish. But this doesn't warrant a rating in my opinion. It'd be unfair. We're now moving on to, in my opinion, the most famous wrestling match of all time. More famous than Andre versus Hogan. More famous than, I don't know, John Cena and The Rock from WrestleMania 28. I only say that's famous because of the publicity it got in 2012. If you have, even if you hate wrestling, even if you hate the WWF or the WWE now, you have heard of this match and you have probably seen the bumps. If you grew up in the 90s, there's a good chance you've seen the two famous bumps from this match. So I think this match was honestly like a massive talking point for wrestling fans. People going to each other, did you see that? Did you see the Hell in a Cell between Mankind and Undertaker where Mankind nearly dies? People were talking about it. And in my opinion, this match pushed the World Wrestling Federation, into a pop culture phenomena. It was always popular, but this is when it really pushed it into the mainstream because everyone was talking about this match. It was huge. So we all know how this goes. Foley starts up top with a chair. Taker follows him up. Story goes, Taker actually had a broken bone in his foot. So it still wrestled this match. And, what happens in his match? He wrestles it with a broken foot. So fair play to that man. They got up top. Mankind's in control initially. He's hitting Taker with the chair. The first signs of danger kick in when they're moving to the next spot. And the roof starts to give way. And it's like, oh, okay. That's a bit dangerous. Taker starts fighting back, punching Mankind over and over again until the famous spot where he throws Mankind off the top of the cell through the announce table 16 feet below. And the course of wrestling history, to be honest, it changed forever that day. It changed, what we thought wrestling would be from that point. No one expected Foley to fly off that cell like he did. And he did. And he did it for us. He did it for the fans. He risked his life. Every wrestler risks their lives when they go inside a wrestling ring. But Foley took that risk to fall 16 feet and fall through a wooden table filled with TV monitors and whatever. Same as Shawn did. Obviously, double the height. And he got seriously injured from this match. Seriously injured. The injuries he got from this match were just unbelievable. You know, obviously the famous one is that the nose came out. You know, he lost a tooth and it went through his nostril. He like separated his shoulder. He broke ribs. He, you know, several of his organs were bruised. He ruined his body with this match. And this is actually my negative. And I'll just quickly move on to the second spot. So Foley's on a stretcher. He gets up. He climbs up to the top, you know, to continue the match. This is where the big controversy, I think, happens. Is that people say, was the roof giving way planned? I personally don't think so. I think the way Foley falls through it and with the chair, they didn't plan this. Foley probably was just meant to bounce off the roof, but he's 300 pounds. And that roof was giving way. But I tell you what, that's the more violent of the two spots. Foley getting chokeslammed through the roof into the ring with a chair hitting him in the face, and that's what caused the tooth to go through the nostril. I think he broke his jaw. I think he did everything. I think he really badly hurt himself in this match. And he was, you know, Taker said, like, pretty much during this match that, how is this guy alive? Like, he should be dead. But Foley continues. They lock the door and Foley carries on. You know, they carry on for about another 12 minutes. And this is my point here. Like, another point I want to make is that basically once the door shut, and you know, the match begins, if you will, it's compelling. It's still compelling, and it's almost, in a sense, it's compelling in the same way I think, how is he doing this? You know, there's that spot where he gets hit with the steps and he just crumples down. Oh no, sorry. He doesn't hit with the steps. I think he probably does get hit with the steps. Everything happened to Foley in this match, but he gets punched and he just falls to the floor. It is just, it's just a broken man. But then there's that spot where he's in the corner and he's smiling and there's blood and there's a tooth in his nostril, like pierced through it, and it's like, Leading on to my third point in the positive is that Mick Foley is an absolute hero for taking the insane bumps he did in this match. I think wrestling, and I think Vince McMahon is grateful, or should be grateful to him forever, because that really did push his company into a genuine talking point. People were talking about Foley's performance in this match, and Undertaker, but Foley, mostly Foley. So the match nears its conclusion, and Mick goes and gets a bag from under the ring after pile driving Taker onto a chair. You know, and he pulls out a bag of thumbtacks, pours them into the ring, and he looks in a mandible claw on Taker. So I think he gets locked in a mandible claw, and Taker makes it to his feet. So Foley's on his back, and Taker is slowly staggering back towards the thumbtacks. And JR knows what's coming. Like, no, don't tell me, no, stop it, no. And he basically, Foley just gets dropped. You know, Taker just falls on his back and Foley just lands straight into the tacks. It's vicious. And Foley rolls into the tacks and they're all over his body. He gets back up and he says, "Goozle me!" To which Taker gets Foley and chokeslams him into them. The chokeslam is sick. Like, you forget about these two spots. I mean, look at, you know, Triple H and Cactus Jack from the 2000 Royal Rumble. That pedigree into the tacks is like one of the most famous spots ever. And one of the most violent. But no one ever talks about the thumbtack spots in this match because you got the two other ones. But Foley, the hero that he is, despite having a heavy concussion and all the injuries he has, takes these two bumps into the tacks, gets a tombstone power driver, and 1, 2, 3, Undertaker wins. And leading on to my negative point, which I was going to talk about a little bit earlier, in hindsight, for Mick Foley's sake, he shouldn't have taken the bumps he did. His life changed for the worse that day. It shortened his career by, like, proper active ring career by years. And yes, he wrestled, you know, he had some fantastic matches, and I would argue one of his best ever matches happened at WrestleMania 22, like 8 years after this. But he shouldn't have taken it. He didn't need to. That's my only negative, and I know that's a really small one, and it seems harsh to give a negative to this match, but that's just my personal feelings, is that Foley did not need to take that bump into the tacks. You know, both of them, and he especially didn't need to take the two bumps from the top of the cell and through the roof. But this match is amazing. You know, if you're watching a Hell in a Cell retrospective, you have probably seen this match. And if somehow you haven't, then go and watch it. It's on YouTube, I'm sure, and it's on the WWE Network. I give this 4.5 stars. I was kind of dwelling between between a 4 and a 4.75, so I kind of settled between a 4.5. I can't give anything less. I think the effort both men put in, the fact that Foley risked his life so extensively for us, and yeah, 4.5 stars. I think that's a fair score. Moving on to our second no score for this retrospective is Kane versus Mankind from WWF Raw is War from August 1998. I won't dwell on this too much, as my memory on this match is quite vague. I know that Foley took some stupid bump from halfway up the cell through an announce table and concussed himself to death for no reason. So needless. That's my negative for this match. And another negative. It ended in a no contest. But the pro I have on this match is Kane looks terrifying at the best of times at this point. Put him inside Hell in a Cell, it just adds to his image. And I believe he tombstone pile drives Mick Foley onto a chair, which is pretty intense. So moving on. We would then not get a Hell in a Cell match until March of 1999. And boy, we were in for a treat with this one. It's Undertaker versus Big Boss Man at WrestleMania 15. In my opinion, the worst ever WrestleMania in history, and this is the worst ever Hell in a Cell match ever. This is horrid. This match is just unbelievably poor from start to finish, and the post-match stuff just makes me feel very uncomfortable. Yeah, worst cell match in history, and there's only one sort of major spot that is of any sort of note during the match, is when Taker's handcuffed to the wall on the outside. Foley, what? I'm still got Mick Foley in my head. Bossman hits him with a nightstick, and Taker falls down. I keep wanting to say Foley. And Taker falls down, and the handcuffs break after one hit. It's so sad. And you almost feel like the two lads go, oh, shit. And have to just improvise. And the match is really short, thankfully, which I think in a way is probably the only sort of positive, is that it's short by some Hell in a Cell matches standards, but it's still too long. It's awful. It's really, really bad. On what is already a terrible pay-per-view, it's the worst. I think because Hell in a Cell had been put on such a pedestal up to that point, for it to have such a bad match. Oh, it's horrendous. And the post-match stuff, I mean, Undertaker wins. The post-match stuff, oh my goodness. It's just downright wrong, I think. And especially now you're looking back and in real life, the Big Boss Man is dead. He died quite a long time ago. So watching this is very uncomfortable. So the Brood descend from the rafters on harnesses and lower a noose through the cell. And Undertaker wraps that noose around Big Boss Man's neck. And Bearer raises the cell. And Big Boss Man gets hung. Now, I know it's a stunt. I'm guessing the noose was attached to his shirt. But Boss Man frails around like he's hanging, like he's been hung. It's sick. It's horrible. It's genuinely nasty and unnecessary and just tasteless. And he just sort of flops and he's dead. It's like, oh my god, they just murdered a man on live pay-per-view. Like, what is wrong with Vince McMahon at times to say, yeah, that'd be a great idea? I'm giving this a -2. Like, I didn't rate the Steve Austin Undertaker Mankind Kane and Mankind and Kane's own Hell in a Cell matches respectively, because I don't think that'd be fair, but it's fair to say that Bossman Taker gets -2 stars. I would go lower, but there have been sort of worse matches, but -2 I think is a fair score for this match, in my opinion. Moving swiftly on, I'm not even going to talk about the Kennel from Hell, because that match is just downright horrendous. So now we're moving on to the next Hell in a Cell match in this retrospective. It's the first time that the World Wrestling Federation title would be on the line in a Hell in a Cell match. It comes from No Way Out 2000 in February of 2000. It's Triple H, the champion, taking on Cactus Jack in a rematch from their legendary street fight from the Royal Rumble back in January in Madison Square Garden. What way to up the ante, then have a Hell in a Cell match, and for Mick Foley's career to be on the line should he lose this match. Again, much like the first match, I think this, like the first Hell in a Cell match, I think this has great storytelling. I love that Foley, has to use everything he can, and is strategic in getting outside the cell when the opportunity arises. I love the fact that there's all the chains and padlocks on the door to prevent an escape at the beginning. I think that's really quite clever. And again, showing Triple H's power, in the McMahon-Helmsley regime, being basically in charge of the World Wrestling Federation at that point. I will be honest, though, and this is my one of my main negative about the match. My other negative isn't really necessarily about the performance or the match itself. It's more about the ramifications of the match. But I'm not a huge fan of the first half of this match when we're inside. It's decent. I don't think it's interesting a story as between Shawn and Taker, for example. That was about Shawn, the coward, somehow managing to overcome the big monster and the Undertaker. This was very much more of an even footing between Triple H and Cactus Jack. I would liken it as a good Hell in a Cell match for the first half. And if it stayed at that pace, it'd still get a good score from me and, be remembered quite fondly. But it's once this match goes outside the cell to where it really goes up a notch and kicks it into higher gear. I think it's incredible once this match goes outside the cell. So Cactus Jack tries to throw the steps at Triple H. Triple H moves out of the way and it breaks the wall. It breaks one of the panels in the bottom in the corner of the cell. It breaks, basically becoming a bit of a makeshift door. Triple H gets thrown through it, and I think he cuts himself quite badly being thrown through it, and Cactus basically just charges his way through it to make the door better, I think. Then there's the spot from the power driver onto the table and all this stuff. It's quite similar to the street fight, but I have no complaints. There's a barbed wire bat around by the announce area, and it's just good stuff. It's brutal, it's bloody, it's violent, and once it goes up top, I think this match is amazing, intense, and the way it builds to its finish is just masterful. Foley takes a bump from essentially the top of the cell, probably about 12 or 13 feet fall this time, through the table. He doesn't concuss himself this time, which is nice. But it's kind of like it's a higher fall than what Shawn had in '97, but same sort of style. Triple H stamps on the hand and Foley just falls back and through the table. He goes. They go up top and there's a suplex on the roof. There's all these things going on. There's a barbed wire bat, and then Foley lights that barbed wire bat on fire. Now he doesn't really hit Triple H that hard, if hard at all. But that is an amazing image. Hardcore wrestling at its just purest form, I think, at that point in that image. They're on top of a cell. The both men are bleeding. There's a barbed wire bat, and Mick Foley just lit the thing on fire. That is just hardcore professional wrestling, I think, summed up in one nice little package. He hits him with the barbed wire bat. He goes to pile drive Triple H onto the flaming barbed wire bat, which is a spot which has never really made sense to me, because surely Foley is going to land ass first into fire. Triple H is going to land on his head, but Foley's going to land on his ass onto flaming barbed wire. But Triple H knows what's going on and back body drops Mick Foley through the roof, and the ring gives way, and Foley lies in a heap in the broken ring, having just taken a hell of a fall, it's about a good 12 foot, I would say, the fall he took into the ring. It just looks devastating, but the good thing about this, it looks devastating, as I said, but it was safe. As safe as that bump could be. I think there was that moment of the back body drop happens, and Foley is just lying in the broken ring, and he has a look of relief in his face. I think that, I'm all right. I'm not dead. Like, the ring gave way, the cell gave way, the spot went perfect. I think it's great. I think it's really great. I think it's an amazing image of Foley just crashing into the ring, but knowing that he's not, like, died practically doing so. So, you know, Triple H gets in the ring, and Cactus amazingly gets up. One pedigree later, and Triple H beats Cactus Jack and retires him for about practically a week. I think it was about, what was they say? What was it, about 4 weeks, 6 weeks? Because Mick Foley would end up going on to main event WrestleMania, which was Mick Foley's dream. The Cactus Jack's dream heading into the match was that he wanted to main event at WrestleMania, and he would do so. And I think it does take away from the match a little bit. Is that Foley didn't stay retired because of this match. But it doesn't take away, I think, from the actual performances and the way this match should be remembered. As a Hell in a Cell match, I think it's brilliant, and I would put that right up, like, the top level Hell in a Cell matches. Like, if you're doing a 5 best Hell in a Cell match list, this would be in it. I think it's only fair. You could argue maybe it's number 1, as I think it's more violent than Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. But my personal preference is that's my favourite. And this gets a 4.5 star rating from me. It's great. What can I say? As I said, not a massive fan of the first half, but I'm a huge fan of the second half. But I think combined in the story, in the emotion, in the violence, in the big bump through the roof, and the fact that it was all safe and Foley didn't get too badly hurt, if hurt at all during that bump, then I have no problems with it. So it gets a 4.5 star rating, and I think that's fair. So moving on now, 10 months later to December of 2000, it's Armageddon, and it's the one and only time that 6 men go against each other inside Hell in a Cell. It's for the World Wrestling Federation title, and it's a who's who. It's 5 of the biggest names in history and Rikishi. You have Kurt Angle, the champion, taking on The Undertaker, taking on Triple H, taking on Rikishi, taking on The Rock, taking on Stone Cold Steve Austin. Okay, this match divides opinion. Some people think it's awesome. I personally think it's a mixed bag. It's all about spectacle. And, you know, there's 6 of the biggest names on the roster were inside Hell in a Cell doing battle for the World Wrestling Federation title. It's cool. It's a cool image. It was the first time that The Rock had been in a Hell and Kurt Angle. For the only time that both men would be in a Hell in a Cell match, and Rikishi. But it's just a really great image, I think, of the 6 men entering the cell and fighting each other, and it all goes 30 minutes. And it's, you know, it's as suitably violent as a Hell in a Cell match should be. But it's a clusterfuck from start to finish. And I'm sorry for my language, but it is. That's the best way. As to what I've written down on my notes, is that this match is an absolute clusterfuck from start to finish. There's too much going on. The crowd don't know what to cheer for. They don't know what to look at. They're missing things. There's action happening in the ring. There's action happening on both sides of the cell. There's when the match eventually makes its way outside the cell, because, you know, Vince has pulled the door off the cell because he doesn't want this match to happen, and Foley's, you know, got him basically evicted from the building. There's too much going on. There's stuff happening up on the ramp. There's stuff happening by the announce table. I can imagine being in that crowd in Alabama that night and just not knowing where to turn, not knowing who to cheer for. I would argue there was one spot all match long which the crowd are fully invested in as one, and they're looking at that and that only. And that is, of course, the Rikishi bump off the roof into the truck full of hay and mattresses. Now, this is far inferior to Foley's bump, but it's still a great image because it's a man falling off a cell into a truck. I know it's heavily, you know, mattressed, and there's, you know, the hay's in there to hide the mattresses, but this bump's amazing because whilst Foley could at least see where he was going, Rikishi was relying on The Undertaker to line him up and push him far enough to fall. And he had a narrow gap to fall in. He had to keep his arms in, tuck his chin, and fall. And just let it happen. Let gravity take over. And he lands in the truck. And, you know, Rikishi has said that in a shoot interview that he was scared to death before the bump, and you can't blame the man. And after the match, all the boys were in the back and gave him a standing ovation. And I think he earned a lot of respect from the boys in the back because that bump I don't think many other people on the roster would take. I do think it's unnecessary, and I do think it was only there because the Undertaker needed to throw someone off the cell, and that's my honest opinion. It is an unnecessary thing to happen in this match. Yeah, that pretty much sums up my thoughts. So my points are, I've got 2 positives and 3 negatives. I've got, the spectacle of the 6 men in the cell. Rikishi bumping off the roof is amazing and fair play to him. And my 3 negatives is the clusterfuck nature of the match from start to finish. It's too much happening at once and it all goes missing. And, as I said, there's only that one bump or that one spot in the match with the bump off the roof, which in my opinion is kind of the only sort of real drawing the whole crowd in to watch this one moment sort of aspect of the match until the finish. And the finish is Kurt Angle. Somehow, despite being, 6-1, having a 1 in, 6 chance of winning, a 1 in 5 chance of winning, he gets an arm over The Rock, who has just taken a stunner from Steve Austin, and gets the 1-2-3 to retain the title. But of course, Steve Austin has to go and get his fucking heat back and stunner Kurt Angle. Steve had to Stone Cold stunner Kurt Angle to get his heat back. It's just Steve Austin being paranoid, and that's one of the things I think I find annoying about Steve Austin from time to time, is that he just can't let it go. He has to have that last moment. So the show ends with Austin bloodied, bleeding. Bloodied and bleeding, yep, that's the same thing. Bloodied, battered, and he has to be the one standing tall, despite the fact that he'd lost. It frustrates me, but I wouldn't go as far as say that it's a negative. I had to add on to the match. It's just a bit of an annoyance for me. But that's how you stay on top for so long, I guess. You just gotta, be brutal sometimes. I'll give this 3 1/4. I was gonna go with 3 stars, but I don't think it's that low. I think the spectacle builds it up a little bit, but I don't actually think this match is any good, to be honest, really. But the spectacle and the bump off the roof is what kind of builds it up, in my opinion. We wouldn't get a Hell in a Cell match during the year of 2001, actually. Not at all. Not one single Hell in a Cell match. It's the only year since the match's inception in 97 where there wasn't a Hell in a Cell match. So we'd have to wait until May 2002 at Judgment Day, where Triple H and Chris Jericho had a Hell in a Cell match for some reason. This feud really didn't warrant it, but it happened. The only positive I have really is that this match is suitably violent for a Hell in a Cell match. And what I mean is there's blood, there's weapons, there's a ladder, there's chairs, there's barbed wire, there's table spots, there's all sorts, right? It's a typically violent cell match, but it's just a bit boring. It's just a bit boring. So my negatives start with the storyline just doesn't warrant a Hell in a Cell. As I said, there wasn't really any need for one. Vince McMahon just throwing his power around, I guess. My other point, and it's the only sort of major talking point from the match, is legitimately referee Tim White has his career ended in this match. So there's that spot where I don't remember the sequence that led to Tim White being on the apron, but he is. And he's either Jericho or Triple H charges at him. I think it's Triple H charges at Jericho, who's on the near the edge of the edge of the ring, and he moves out of the way, and they clatter into Tim White. And White, I think he dislocates his shoulder. He hits the roof. He hits the side of the cell really hard. His head hits the cell, the pole, I think. He's badly hurt. He's bleeding. I think he got a concussion. He got really badly hurt in this match. And it's just not nice to know that someone's career genuinely ended because of an injury that was caused in this match. And it does add a downer on the match. I actually think this match is a pale imitation of Cactus Jack and Triple H. The crowd didn't care. The pedigree on the roof is, it's cool. The whole stuff on the roof, it's cool to see guys fight on there. But it's just silly. And I hate the fact the finish happened up there and the pin was made up there. It's ridiculous. It kind of goes against everything that, a Hell in a Cell match is. Keep him in the ring. But you can pedigree a dude on the roof and, and get your win up there. It's just a bit silly. Star rating. I would give this a 2.5 star rating. In terms of actual matches that, have had conclusive finishes, it's the second worst Cell match so far. It will get worse as we will go further into this this little retrospective. We're now moving on to one of the most underrated Hell in a Cell matches that I can remember, and it's at No Mercy in 2002, October 2002, and it's for the WWE Championship, and it's Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker. This is the first Hell in a Cell match aside from Big Boss Man and The Undertaker that doesn't leave the cell. Every Hell in a Cell match, like Shawn Taker, Mankind Taker, Cactus Jack Triple H, the Six Man, Jericho Triple H, they'd all left the cell. This was the only cell match up to this point that went a good 30 minutes and never left the cell once. And I actually think, despite that, it's more brutal than some cell matches that do leave it. I think this match is more brutal than the Six Man. And in terms of actual sheer brutality and making it being hard to watch at times, it's, I would actually go as far as saying it's the third most brutal cell match up to this point, behind Foley and Triple H and Foley and Undertaker. It's vicious. Like, there's so much blood, and that is the column, but it's also in the negative column because, oh my god, there's so much blood. Taker, his blade job was deep. Let's put it deep. And he bleeds profusely, and it's disgusting, and it is very much warranting an 18 BBFC rating that prevented me from getting this pay-per-view on video back in the day, because my parents would let me have an 18 rated, despite being allowed to own, Grand Theft Auto. I'm just saying. It's vicious, it's grim. As an adult, knowing that, that isn't fake blood, and that is a blade job that has just gone too far, it is hard to watch. And my other negative on this match is the storyline heading into this match was whether Undertaker was going to be allowed to, use his cast for his broken hand that he got thanks to Lesnar's assault on SmackDown. And whilst the cast is used, in the beginning part of the match, I think once it gets a certain point, I actually think probably from, the moment the cast gets taken off and Taker's bleeding as much as he is, I think it's just psychology from the broken arm, from the, just goes out of the window pretty much immediately. Taker got like a shot, like an injection, if you will, earlier that pay-per-view, pain relief. So he can use the arm as a weapon, which is just ridiculous. But he kind of just, psychology just goes out of the window, and it just becomes a bit meaningless. He just forgets to sell it, I think, really. He starts punching with it, starts doing last ride power bombs and choke slams and all the rest of it, and goes for the tombstone. Broken hand, no cast on, it's fine, just going to forget it happened. But that does not detract from what I actually think is a very underrated Hell in a Cell match. Go watch it. It's very different to the match they had in 2015 together. I don't think it's as good, but it's vicious. Not for the squeamish. I would give this 3.5 stars. Moving on to 2003. It's June 2003. Bad Blood. And it's Triple H versus Kevin Nash for the World Heavyweight Championship with special guest referee Mick Foley. Now, this one, much like it's, I was about to compare it to Jericho and Triple H, but I think that's a bit unfair because this match is pretty violent. There's barbed wire, there's blood, there's a screwdriver to the head, which makes me cringe because even though I know it's nowhere near his head, as a 12-year-old, I very much thought that man is getting a screwdriver wrapped around his skull. It's pretty grim. And I'm not a huge fan of Kevin Nash, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm not just saying that because I'm a hater. I like his match we had with Shawn Michaels back in 1995. And, he's famous, obviously, for his run with the NWO. But I'm not a big fan of his wrestling. But this match is surprisingly decent. I think it's a three-way effort. Triple H does a great job. Kevin Nash does a great job. And Foley takes a great job. Speaking of Foley, but he does a great job in the same way that he adds to the drama of the match. But I think it's a little bit pointless him being the ref. To be honest, his biggest influence on the match was the pre pay-per-view stuff on the Raw before, with the amazing segment, inside the cell, and Triple H beats him up, and he's like, all I gotta do is count 1, 2, 3, and that's great. This match, I think, is it's highly forgettable, I would say. I know it sounds harsh, but it's forgettable. It's not one people go, oh, do you remember the Kevin Nash and Triple H in Hell in a Cell? No, not really. It's a run-of-the-mill Hell in a Cell. It's violent, it's brutal, It's just that it is what it is. It kind of what would Hell in a Cell would have become in the coming years. But, it's still watchable. Definitely watchable. And I'll give it 3.25. But now moving on to Bad Blood 2004. So I think Bad Blood might be the only pay-per-view in WWE history that in every single incarnation of that pay-per-view had a Hell in a Cell match. It's almost the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view before Hell in a Cell pay-per-view became an actual thing. It's Shawn Michaels versus Triple H inside Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood 2004, June 2004. One of the few times that a non-title Hell in a Cell match was the main event of a show. We've had a few non-title Hell in a Cell matches, but this was like maybe only the second time a non-title Hell in a Cell match would main event a pay-per-view. This match for me, my fondest memory of this match is the pre-match promo featuring the song Back Up by 12 Stones. That promo is up there with My Way, WrestleMania 17 as just incredible. Like, it's so good, and it really builds this feud between Shawn and Triple H as being just absolutely massive, like, and needed this blow off inside the cell to warrant it. It's great. It's just brilliant. This feud's been going on for a couple of years, but they date back to 7 years. It's just brilliant. I love it. I could watch that promo right now if I wasn't doing this recording. And my second positive point for this match is that whilst I do think this match is too long, fair play to both Triple H and Shawn Michaels for working a near 50-minute Hell in a Cell match. That is a fair effort from both men. Even if the pacing is just a bit all over the pace, it's nearly 50 minutes. Like I can barely do 2.5 minutes of straight kickboxing in my when I go kickboxing classes before getting absolutely knackered. And these guys work a 50-minute match inside Hell in a Cell. And Shawn Michaels wrestled most of that match with a broken hand, so fair play to him and Triple H. Leading on to my negatives, and I'm not going to do like talking through the match on this point. I haven't done it for every single match, as you notice, because some of the best ones deserve like a bit of a play-by-play, but not all of them do. I talk about the less interesting ones and more of the highlights from some of them. And I don't actually think this has a highlight. It's just a lot of plodding spots. I don't think it's very interesting. I very much loved it at the time for almost the spectacle of it. But watching it back recently, this match is not very interesting. There's spots of chairs, there's a ladder and a table spot, there's blood, there's chair shots to the head, there's use of the cell, and it's very much, all right, what should we do now? It almost felt like they were calling it on the fly. And Hell in a Cell matches shouldn't be like that. You should know how you're getting to plan A and from destination A to destination B, and know what route you're taking to get there. Whilst I do genuinely, it looks like they're calling it on the fly, which is not good for a main event Hell in a Cell match. I'm sure they planned a lot of some of the spots, or most of the spots, but it doesn't seem like it's as tight as other Hell in a Cell matches, which leads on to my my last 2 points in the negative for this match. You can see it's a 2 to 3 negative to positive split on this match. This match is 15 minutes too long. It's 15 minutes too long. It just drags to its finish to where the crowd just don't care anymore come the finish. And the finish pisses me off. Something rotten. 3 pedigrees. Shawn kicks out of the first 2, but then Triple H hits that third one. Shawn rolls to his back instead of landing on his front. And Triple H, I know he's selling the fact that these two have literally just murdered each other for nearly an hour, practically. But it takes him about an hour and a half to cover Shawn Michaels just to get an arm over. It annoys me. It's just Triple H trying to make, no one kicks out of the pedigree, especially 3 of them. It winds me up. Yes, Shawn would be the one, walking out of the cell on his own 2 feet after the match, and Triple H would be the one getting help from Evolution to leave the cell. But I don't like the fact that it takes him so long to get his arm over. It makes Shawn, I know they've been beaten and battered and they're knackered, but that is such a long time. It's too long. can almost see Mike Chioda looking at him like, come on, man, just put your arm over him. Come on. I give this a 3-star rating because it goes 47 minutes, and that is a positive in that both men can work that long, but it's too long. It's too long. But the 3-star rating, I think, is more for the effort that they went that long, more than anything else. We're now moving on to the most underrated Hell in a Cell match ever, in my opinion. This is the most underrated Hell in a Cell match ever. And it's Batista versus Triple H at Vengeance 2005 for the world title inside Hell in a Cell. The blow off to their feud. Match 3 of their series. Batista is 2-0 against Triple H in main event matches for the world title. Surely Triple H is going to win this third one and regain the title, and then drop it to Batista in a fourth match. No, Batista wins this match. It's quite something, actually, that Batista gets that win, and it's the first man to pin Triple H in the cell. It's highly underrated. I love this match. I think this match is really great. Triple H makes Batista look like $1 million in this match. He really does. Triple H knew when to job out to people that needed it and to further them, and for that being the right person. And Batista was the right person at the right time to, win a Hell in a Cell match against Triple H and continue that momentum as the top babyface on Raw and then soon to be SmackDown. Great match. Really, I love this match. Really do. I think it's vicious. It's really violent. Really violent. Like the barbed wire chair shots are just nasty. And I know, you protect yourself and that, but, there's that, Triple H, I think it's Batista or Triple H takes a chair shot to the back, and there's little pockets of blood that's been coming out from the skin where that legit barbed wire has pierced the skin. It looks nasty. And there's that spot where Batista gets the chair, levels Triple H with it around the head, and Triple H is thriving around like, oh my God, it looks so painful. And then Batista grabs that chair and rakes it across Triple H's face. And Triple H is screaming. He's like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to him. And he's selling it brilliantly. But it looks like it sucks. Like, it actually sucks to have that happen. Ugh, nasty. Lead to the finish. Triple H is going to pedigree Batista on the steps, but Triple H gets back body dropped out of it, and Batista hits a spine buster. I think a back body drop, but Batista definitely spine busts Triple H onto the steps and hits a Batista bomb. Triple H has a sledgehammer in his hand, and whilst Batista has Triple H in the air before the Batista bomb lands, Triple H is like, gonna hit him? Is he gonna hit him? Is he gonna hit him? No. Batista manages to avoid disaster. Batista bombs him and gets the pin to win a brilliant Hell in a Cell match. My only negative of this match, and this is a personal preference, I know, they were fine, or Batista was fine from this spot, but one thing in wrestling, and I know that Adam Bigelow from the Attitude Era podcast has said it himself, I'm exactly the same. I hate strangulation spots. I hate them. They just look nasty, and it makes Batista getting hung. So, but those of you not seen this match, Triple H is in the ring and he's got this long metal chain, like it's huge. And Batista's on the outside and he wraps this chain around Batista's neck. And Triple H gets him back in the ring and over the top rope pulls down on this chain. And Batista is literally on his tiptoes whilst being hung, like using the chain and the ropes. And it's like, oh my God, like that just looks so sick. Like, I know it's wrestling, I know they're not actually getting hurt, but I don't like strangulation spots. It just makes me feel very uncomfortable because that's so close to real life, that it's just really painful to watch, I think. And I don't really get how anyone can really enjoy watching a spot like that. That's just me. This gets a 4-star rating from me. It's one of the higher ratings I'm going to give during this little retrospective. And now on to one of the lower ones. It's Randy Orton and The Undertaker from Armageddon 2005 in December of that year. I have very little to say about this match. It's boring. It's really boring. That's my opinion. Orton, I think, is the only sort of positive in this match, in that he plays the cowardly heel. Very kind of similar to Shawn Michaels' Undertaker scenario from '97, but far less interesting. It's boring. It's plodding. Not for me. I don't like this match at all. And it's made worse by the whole Bob Orton hepatitis C situation. Knowing that Bob Orton has hepatitis C, has not disclosed this, and is bleeding, and he bleeds all over Taker, is just uncomfortable. And if you aren't somewhat just sort of like grimmed out by that, then you need to go get checked. Like, it's like, your head, because that is grim. That is disgusting. And Undertaker was not pleased, was the story. Can't blame the man. That's as much as I'm prepared to talk about Randy Orton and The Undertaker. I like the build-up to the match, I guess. Enjoy the ride. Like, and all that stuff. He basically takes over Josh Matthews. And that's all good stuff. And, it was nice to see this great feud between Orton and Undertaker. And, with a Hell in a Cell match. It warranted it. But I don't like this match. That's just me. Moving on to the first Hell in a Cell match with the new structure. We weren't being told before Unforgiven 2006 in September of that year that there was going to be a new design for the cell, that it was essentially going to be taller and more reinforced. So when I woke up in the middle of the night, came downstairs and put on Unforgiven, which I think was on Sky Sports 1, and we were recording it. I came downstairs just on the off chance that I might catch the cell or something like that, cell match. And I literally came down right before the cell match was about to begin. And I was like, oh, sweet, I'll watch this and go back to bed. Because this was the match I was most looking forward to. And it's, excuse me, it's D-Generation X taking on the McMahons in the Big Show. So Vince McMahon and Shane in the first ever handicap Hell in a Cell match up to that point. I would say this match has some good points. Okay, first of all, I think everybody involved worked really hard to sell the brutality of a Hell in a Cell match. Shawn, Triple H, Vince, Shane, Big Show, all 5 men played their role very well. Shawn gets, basically, a human just, I don't know, he just gets beaten around like a rag doll. Shane, he's crazy and will take, crazy bumps or he take crazy spots. There's that spot where Shawn kind of just sends Shane flying from the apron to the wall, and Shane just clatters his head against the wall of the cell, and it's like, oh, man, fair play, man. That's a fall he took as well. And then you get to the not-so-good stuff. I think this match is a clusterfuck. And that it's just spot after spot, and both men have been worked on, one by Shawn and Triple H when the heels are working over them. It's kind of just Shawn takes a break. Triple H takes something, takes a break, and it's just a bit of a cluster, and that it's all just a bit scrappy, but not unenjoyable. But it's fine. And I have to say, whilst people will say, "Oh, it was a highlight of the match," and in many ways it kind of was. Vince getting his head shoved in Big Show's ass is just unnecessary and ridiculous, and it's not in tone with a Hell in a Cell match. It just isn't. It just is not. I don't think of Hell in a Cell and think, yeah, that's suitable for a Hell in a Cell match. That's a comedy spot in a Hell in a Cell match. It's not really needed. But Vince and Shane after the match, after Vince basically takes a sledgehammer to the skull and the hammerhead breaks off, it's like, that looks great. It looks so great. That is I love that shot. I think that's amazing when Vince is on his knees and Triple H just smashes that sledgehammer and the head flies off. It's like, I know it made no contact, but it looks like it murdered him. Like, that is a murderous shot. And he pins him and they win. And Triple H and Shawn Michaels beat the McMahons in the Big Show. I like this match. To be honest, I probably have sort of rose-tinted glasses because I remember watching this as a kid and thinking, yeah, this match is actually quite great. I like this match. I give it 3 stars. But there's been better cell matches, of course. I've given higher ratings. And I do think, some of the spots were just a little bit, that one spot in particular, I'm not going to talk about it anymore, just isn't Hell in a Cell-esque, if you know what I mean. 3 stars, I think that's a fair rating, because it's still an enjoyable romp, if you will, and everyone, as I said, works hard, so that's as much as I can say. Have a quick drink of Pepsi here. Moving on to the one and only Hell in a Cell match of 2007, which was between Batista and The Undertaker for the World Heavyweight Championship at Survivor Series 2007. True story, actually. This was almost as a backup because Randy Orton and John Cena were in a rivalry in 2007. Triple H. John Cena got injured, completely tore his pectoral muscle off the bone, and the feud with him and Randy Orton was essentially just put on hold for the time being. There's a promo that I don't know if you can find on YouTube anymore, but I remember seeing it way back when, for Cyber Sunday 2007. And they were advertising that the fans could choose the stipulation between Randy Orton and John Cena for the WWE title. The 3 options were no disqualification, Falls Count Anywhere, and the third option was Hell in a Cell. Of course, that wouldn't ever come to pass. In a TV14 environment, we would have to wait till 2009 to get a Cena-Orton Hell in a Cell match. But that is a true story. That promo has existed. It might be on YouTube. Go find it if you can. But that is true. So Batista and Undertaker, their rivalry reignited for Cyber Sunday, and Batista actually got his win back from WrestleMania. So they had Undertaker had won their first match at WrestleMania. They had 2 draws, and then Batista won at Cyber Sunday, clean as a whistle, with Steve Austin as the guest ref. They were going to have the rubber match to end the feud, and Undertaker wanted Hell in a Cell. And so, here we are. It's Survivor Series. The show itself is poor, bar Michaels Orton, so it needed a great main event, and I think both men delivered. I don't think it's as good as their WrestleMania match, but it's definitely one of the better matches of their program. I think it's good. I think both men worked really hard, and that's a lot. That's something I'll say a lot, is that while some Cell matches aren't great, the effort that the men put involved are great. And then the match, features, Batista bomb through the table, a tombstone pile driver on the steps, and then my favourite spot, maybe ever, inside the cell, because it's just vicious. Oh, it's brilliant. It's when Undertaker wraps a steel chair around Batista's neck. So he's got, when you get a folded steel chair, you've got the top of the chair where your back goes when you sit on one, and he gets Batista's throat over the top of that, grabs both of them, and smashes the chair onto the floor on the outside. And Batista basically it's almost like a guillotine. His throat smashes off the top of the chair. It looks nasty. I think they even do it off the steps or something, because the noise it makes is absolutely deafening. And Batista, I think must have had a blood capsule, because he starts internally bleeding, and you're like, it looks brilliant. But you probably know it's safe. But, it looks brilliant. I'm not a huge fan of the finish of this match, when Edge comes out as the cameraman. I know it's a pretty inventive way to get Edge back on TV and to spark what would be a fantastic feud with The Undertaker heading into 2008. But I'm not a big fan of it. I wish this match had a conclusive finish. A clean finish, if you could have one, really, inside the cell. I wish there was no shenanigans, and that Batista just beat Taker clean. But Edge comes in, interferes, and we get set up for pretty much most of 2008 would be Undertaker and Edge. Speaking of which, that's our next Cell match. In August of 2008, it's... I didn't give a rating to Batista and Undertaker. 3.25. That's what I've given that. Bordering 3.5, but I'll give it 3.25. Next up, we have Undertaker and Edge, SummerSlam 2008. In August of that year. This match is really good. One of the better PG-rated Cell matches. Edge is awesome. Edge is amazing. The feud had been going on as I said, since Survivor Series of the previous year. Undertaker won the world title at WrestleMania, defeated Edge at Backlash and Judgment Day, but the title was vacated. They had a TLC match at One Night Stand to get a new world champion, and if Taker lost, his career's over. Edge won for Taker taking a crazy bump off a ladder through a stacked pile of tables on the outside, and Edge wins. Edge then has an affair with Alicia Fox, sending Vicky Guerrero his on-screen wife / girlfriend, whatever they were at that point, into a frenzy. She goes mental, and because she's the general manager, she has control, and she books Edge in a Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker at SummerSlam out of revenge. Edge initially is terrified, but it's an amazing segment with Foley on SmackDown, where Foley went, I know someone that can beat The Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell, and it's Edge. And he defined the Edge that made me say you were the greatest star in WWE. You take this cowardly Edge to SummerSlam, and The Undertaker is going to tear you apart. I understood. And Edge goes, I understand. Beats the death out of Foley. And that would be the last time we'd see Mick Foley on a WWE TV screen for like 3 years. Because I think Foley, he was commentating at the time. They wrote him off. It's brilliant stuff, and Edge goes mental. Like, he just literally goes insane. And when Edge comes out to the ring, he's got this crazy smile on his face, and he looks like he's mentally ready for a Taker inside the cell. Taker comes out, and then Taker does the slamming of the door, and it's just at a great spot. It's really great. This match is really good. Like, it's just a typically decent Hell in a Cell match, but I think considering it's PG rated and there's no blood, it works really well. I think the spot where Edge spears Taker through the wall to the outside is great. And then there's stuff on the outside of the cell, which, obviously is great as well. But they don't go up top because this thing is absolutely huge. Edge actually said he wanted it to go up top, but was told, no, you're not going up there to do any spots. The only thing I don't like about this match, and this is after all the shenanigans, and Edge getting chokeslammed from the top turnbuckle to the outside for a stacked pile of tables, chair shots, and all that good stuff. It's the post match stuff. So Undertaker sends Edge to hell, essentially. Gets a ladder out, slowly gets Edge on the ladder and chokeslams him, and the ring breaks, and you don't see Edge for the remainder of the segment, and Undertaker basically sends flames up from under the ring, and Edge is sent to hell. It's so gimmicky and rubbish. And the DVD edit has this weird, like, sort of demonic like post-show edit, if you will, like to try and make this seem like Taker's being like possessed to do this, or like is that evilness he's gonna send to Edge to hell. I don't like it. I feel like it didn't need it. This feud was done. It's just a cool image, I guess, but I think it's really, really gimmicky and unnecessary, and whilst it doesn't ruin the match by any stretch, it doesn't do it for me. But this match gets a 4-star rating. Whilst I haven't given a play-by-play, it's really good. And sometimes not doing a play-by-play just leaves it to your imagination. So go out and watch Edge and Taker from SummerSlam. There's no blood, but it's better than a lot of cell matches that do have it. So there you go. Now, this is where the Hell in a Cell match, I think, from this point, officially nosedives into not being especially important anymore, bar a few exemptions. Because in October of 2009, the WWE had produced their first ever Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, where there's 3 cell matches on one card. 3 of them. It's too many cell matches. And we'll start off with one of the worst. maybe even the second worst cell match ever, and it's CM Punk and The Undertaker for the World Heavyweight Championship to open this show. It opened the show! CM Punk reportedly was in the doghouse on a tour. He was dressed very scruffily, and Undertaker pulled him aside and said, you're the world champion, because he was the world champion. You're the world champion, you've got to be more presentable. And basically Punk pulled out the hypocrisy, how much of a hypocrites the WWE are, and said, well, Cena walks around looking like a bunch of, in all of his colourful t-shirts. Like, how come he doesn't get that, this telling off? And because Cena's the poster boy and shifts more merch than anyone at this point, they didn't take too lightly on that. And Punk gets dropped out in a horrendous Hell in a Cell match to open the show. Oh, it's bad. I do not like this. I don't have a positive point. I actually have said this is the worst cell match since Taker and Bossman, and this felt like a normal gimmick match you'd find on a SmackDown main event, but it just happened to take place inside Hell in a Cell. I don't have anything more to say about this. This gets a 0.5 star rating, and this is a trend that will continue into the next Hell in a Cell, and it's John Cena versus Randy Orton for the WWE title. Now, this is 2 years too late, because obviously it was meant to happen in 2007. This match is better than Punk and Taker, but it's not very good either. I don't have fond memories of this whatsoever, or any sort of memories. It's just not very good. I was going to say it's shit. I think there's worse matches than this. Punk and Taker being one of them. But this match is really, really bad. And this is not even the best cell match they'd have together. And even that wasn't that great. Spoilers. But their second one in 2014 wasn't brilliant, but it was better than this. I give this a 1.75 stars. The only thing of note was the punt at the finish, and Cena just, sells it off like it's just any other finisher. That thing was killing people at the beginning of the year. Now it's just completely almost meaningless. It that should send people out of action for months. It doesn't. This thing, no, not for me. This pay-per-view is not going well in terms of its cell matches. We're now moving on to the main event of this show, the third Hell in a Cell match of this card. It's DX versus Legacy in the blow-off to their feud. Their match at Breaking Point back in September of 2009 was actually quite decent, in my opinion. This is actually quite good as well, but it's still not great. I don't mind the storyline of Shawn, of Legacy locking Shawn Michaels inside the cell, and Triple H, Shawn inside and Triple H is on the outside trying to get in for most of the match, and they just decimate the hell out of Shawn Michaels. Triple H goes to the back, and it looks like Triple H is like leaving his friend out in the cold, but comes back later on that night. Well, it feels like it. They beat the hell out of Shawn for ages. He takes the beating and sells it brilliantly, the Shawn. Triple H comes out with a pair of bolt cutters. Now, I have to say, in terms of just, things being, making sense, Triple H just takes so long to come out with those bolt cutters. He's just in the gorilla position with the bolt cutters going, right, wait for the moment, wait for Legacy to get their spots in. Yeah, okay, go, you go now. And they open the door, and Triple H gets in, beats up Legacy. Shawn Michaels starts making his recovery. They lock Ted DiBiase outside the cell, and Shawn does what he did to Shane McMahon at Unforgiven, wraps Cody Rhodes' neck in the chair and does the elbow drop off the top, followed by the sledgehammer shot to Cody Rhodes, and it's over. And of course, the Generation X had to beat these two young guns who were rising stars at the time, but it is what it is. At the end of the feud, I don't think this match is, terrible, but it's not that great either. I'll give it 2.5 stars. My negative is that, DX just had to win, didn't they? But what can you do? It's Shawn Michaels and Triple H. They're not losing to a lot of people. Oh god, let's just whittle through these PG rated ones. So, the terrible ones. So we got Randy Orton and Sheamus from 2010. As you can tell, I don't really have as much enthusiasm about this match, because this match is really, really boring. It's completely forgettable. It's for the WWE title. I don't care. It's so needless and very much feels like these two men are in a feud. And it's Hell in a Cell. So give them a cell match. I give this a 1.5 stars. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Moving on to Kane and Undertaker. I don't want to talk about this anymore. This match is 12 years too late. It's slow, it's boring, and it's wank. The finish is terrible. It's rubbish. Terrible. Same show, 2010, world title. Moving on, awful. Yep, so give that a star and a half. That'll do. Moving on to 2011. So Mark Henry and Randy Orton are having a Hell in a Cell match for whatever reason, because it's October, I guess. It's for the world title. It's boring. It's really boring. I don't like these matches. They don't do anything new or anything different. They're just generic, boring, PG-rated cell matches. The same spots. It's just boring. Yes, you can have these individual moments where, okay, that's quite cool, where they throw people into the cell or whatever. But no, it's just dull, dull, dull. There's been so much quality before this that these matches are just unacceptably bad. This gets us a star and 3/4. Moving on to to its credit, actually a pretty good Hell in a Cell match, actually. The first ever triple threat cell match. It's Cena versus CM Punk versus Alberto Del Rio, who is in the midst of his debut year, where he's won the Rumble, was in a main event, quote unquote. No, it was in the opening match for the world title against Edge at WrestleMania. Won Money in the Bank, beat CM Punk at SummerSlam to cash in after Punk got assaulted by Kevin Nash. And now he's dropped the title to Cena, and he wins it back inside Hell in a Cell. It's good. These three men actually work quite well together. It's decent. Like, there's nothing remarkable about it, but it's good fun to watch. It's the best cell match of this Hell in a Cell pay-per-view since this pay-per-view's inception. It's actually quite decent, but it just doesn't feel brutal enough for a cell match. And I'm not saying I want them to hit each other with chairs until they get concussions, but I want it to feel more brutal than this. It just feels very PG, which I think is a major problem. But I do like the post-match stuff with the Awesome Truth coming out and beating up everyone in the cell, and they get arrested, and Triple H, obviously, because he's in charge, he's freaking out because he's lost control of the show again, and it's all good stuff. I don't have a lot to say. Like, there's no point giving a play-by-play on it because it's just kind of spot after spot after spot. But these three men work quite well, and I'm going to give this match a 3-star rating. I think that's fair. I wouldn't go any higher than that. Finally, a cell match I can get excited about because this match is absolutely brilliant. It's WrestleMania 28, the first cell match to take place at a WrestleMania for a long time, for 13 years. It's in a big open stadium, Sun Life Stadium in Miami, Florida, in front of nearly 80,000 people. It's the end of an era. Shawn Michaels is the guest referee as Triple H and The Undertaker end their feud and end an era. This match is amazing. I love this match. This match is brilliant. And it's not just because I have amazing memories of watching this live in the pub and freaking out at all the near falls, especially the pedigree trip super kick near fall. That is just beautiful. Amazing stuff. I love this match. This is so great. The masterful storytelling by all three men. Shawn being the conflicted ref, and Undertaker having been, not competed in a year, takes the hood off his like robe thing, and he's got the mohawk, and it's a totally different look. And Triple H obviously is just goes from saying stay down, end it, Shawn, or I will. And it's brilliant, like how Triple H is just like, I want to kill this man. I'm going to do it. I'm going to beat him. And Shawn being the conflicted ref because he respects Taker, but he's Triple H's best friend. And they have that moment of weakness with the pedigree and the super kick near full spot. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Again, it's just a combination of fantastic, near falls, chair shots galore. I mean, there's so many chair shots. That is the thing, I think. Despite the fact that it is just a chair shot to the back, they are murdering each other with them. Like, it looks like they just said to each other, let him. We want the marks. We want a bruise. We want to be really sore because it will add to the brutality of it. Jim Ross on commentary, inspired, but he should have stayed there for the rest of the night, and he should have called Cena and The Rock. But this match is great. I love this match. I think I have very high memories of this because I loved it at the time, and it's a match I would show people because I'm like, this match is great. Look at the storytelling and look at the chair shots and the near falls, and it's just brilliant. And the setting, look at this stadium and the cell, and I'm marking out here. I love this match. I don't have any negatives. I really don't. I love this match. Gets a 4 and a half-star rating. It's the best cell match since way back when, since Cactus Jack and Triple H. 12 years. That is a long time, but I love this match. And then the post-match stuff, where they help each other up the ramp, they stand around and they look at the crowd, and the crowd are all on their feet. You know, that should have been when Taker's career ended. He shouldn't be wrestling still. That should have been the end. 20-0. Having beaten Triple H inside Hell in a Cell, Shawn Michaels is the guest ref, and there's probably two men that Undertaker respects. Aren't too many respects more in this business than those two. What a way to go out. But no. He'd have a great match with Punk the next year. A terrible match with Lesnar. An okay match of Bray Wyatt, and we'll get to the match with Shane McMahon. Moving on to the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view in October of 2012. It's CM Punk, who has now turned heel, taking on a babyface Ryback. This was the only Cell match on this card, the only time up to this point where there'd only been one booked Hell in a Cell match on a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, which I think was a right decision, and it made this feel not special, but like it meant something because it was the only one. But this match isn't great, to be honest. It's a horrible letdown. And I remember watching it live and just being like, oh, this was so short. It was so short. And it was the only one on this card. It was actually, in a way, it hurt it. In hindsight, it hurt the match. That it was and the show, that it was the only Cell match on the card. But it was so short. And, it was a letdown. But CM Punk is a big positive in this match. He plays that cowardly heel role brilliantly. It was highly forgettable. Brad Maddox, low blow, and Ryback and fast count and CM Punk to win is the highlight. And Punk, was that Ryback and Punk did some post-match shenanigans on the roof. But, it's forgettable again. But it was just a letdown. And I'm going to move on even more. CM Punk taking on Ryback and Paul Heyman from Hell in a Cell 2013. This is even worse. It's even worse. My 2 points in this match are: fair play to Heyman for even considering going up to the top of the cell. He didn't need to do that. No, he didn't. But my main point is this match is shit. This match is shit. Nope. Don't like it. Don't want to talk about it anymore. 1.5 stars. Moving on to a slightly better, if not that great match either. It's Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan for the WWE title. And Shawn Michaels happens to be the guest referee for this match in the main event of the show. The crowd are very invested in this as Daniel Bryan's rise to be the number one babyface in the company, essentially, was continuing on this show. I love the Bryan suicide leaps through the ropes, and then on the third one, Orton counters and just throws Bryan into the wall. There's the superplex off the top rope onto a pile of chairs, which looks sore, but Bryan essentially misses all the chairs, and Orton takes a flat back bump onto the pile of chairs, which was kind of, it was on Botchamania. And then the post-match stuff, near the end, the finish with Triple H getting in the ring to help Shawn Michaels, who'd been hurt, and Bryan hitting the flying knee on Triple H, and Shawn Michaels seeing this and super kicks Daniel Bryan, leaving Randy Orton to get the pin and to retain the title and to turn Shawn Michaels heel for whatever reason. People thought that was what was going to happen. There was that segment on Raw before, which basically, Triple H was questioning Shawn Michaels' motives as to why he wanted to be the guest ref, and it's an okay match. It's definitely better than Punk versus Ryback and Paul Heyman, but again, I'm not a huge fan of this. There's some nice spots. The finish is quite fun, but nah, it's overbooked. And it was kind of overbooked for the sake of it at the same time. But, it is what it is. I'll give it 2.5 stars. Moving on to a better Hell in a Cell match. It's Randy Orton and John Cena from Hell in a Cell 2014, October 2014. This is a lot better than their original effort. It feels like they tried. It feels like they actually tried in this match to put on a good match. And there's one spot in particular, whilst the match itself, it's enjoyable, but it's not one you can play by play because it's just a bunch of spots, but it's enjoyable. There's that moment where Cena's on like his, when he does like his shoulder tackle, suplex move. That's the 5 moves of doom essentially. Cena's basically in the midst of that. But Orton hits an RKO out of nowhere, literally, and it's like, oh my god, that was amazing. It's just pointless. It was a number 1 contenders match for the WWE title. Brock Lesnar was the champion, and it never came to fruition. Lesnar and Cena having another one-on-one. But I can't deny, having gone back and watched this, I don't remember much about it, only because it feels very much like just any other Cell match to me. But it's better than their 09 match. It's a bit pointless in the grand scheme, but it's fun enough. I would give it 3 stars. Moving on to a very good Hell in a Cell match, in my opinion. It's Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. Now, this is one I can do some play-by-play on. So the match starts with Dean Ambrose gets into the ring, and being the lunatic fringe, he grabs a load of chairs, like must be 15 chairs, and throws them into the ring. He then goes, "Now screw this," and he takes a chair, or he takes a kendo stick. I don't know what he takes up. But he takes a weapon up to the top, and the commentary are like, what is going on? He's climbing to the roof. Seth Rollins comes out with J&J security and says, nope, get him back down. Up goes Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury, and they get beaten up initially. Seth Rollins, like a cat, like literally, he's so athletic. He climbs up that cell so quickly, and he attacks Ambrose. And they're doing spots on the roof. There's that spot. It's a kendo stick. I remember now it's a kendo stick because Rollins goes to the edge of the cell, and the camera pans away to show the height of the fall that the kendo stick has from the top, almost symbolizing, yeah, that's a long way to fall, isn't it? It'd be a shame if someone actually fell off. And then they go to the side of the cell. They go to the side, and they start climbing down, and they take a sweet amount of time to line themselves up for the big spot. They, headbutt each other, and they both flat back bump from halfway up the cell. Bear in mind, this is the new cell, so this is still about 10 feet. Maybe more than that, actually. They fell a fair height, and they both crash through an announce table each. My only issue with this spot, whilst I think it is, it's highly choreographed, it looks great, but it's choreographed. It feels like they had literally, maybe they probably practiced on some mattresses. You never know. But it's like they timed it and Ambrose was slightly off. I think the idea was for them to fall through the table at the exact same time, but Ambrose was slightly behind. So it doesn't look like a real thing you do in a fight, but it looks great. So I'll let them off. I don't like the finish. Once they do eventually get into the cell and they lock the door, and they're just doing spot after spot. They get a cinder block out to, I think Rollins, I think, is going to curb stomp Ambrose onto the cinder block. And then Ambrose threatens to do the same thing. And then the lights go out. And a lantern appears in the ring when the lights come up. Well, lighter. It's a weird sort of... It's like the Ganados from Resident Evil 4 going, or the monks from Resident Evil 4. All of a sudden, Bray Wyatt appears out of absolutely fucking nowhere and takes out Ambrose. Hit to the Sister Abigail to Dean Ambrose, and Rollins just looks like, do I pin him? Do I pin this guy? And pins Dean Ambrose to win. I don't really like the finish. I think it's silly, especially with like the light and the image that was coming out of the light and the fog. It's just all very, very hokey. But it doesn't take away from a fact that I really like this match. I think this match is actually quite enjoyable for what it is. So it gets a 3.5 star rating. And whilst I don't think the spot off the side of the cell was all really that necessary, it still looks great. So fair play to both men. Wow, we've only got 3 left. We have whittled through these, especially. I mean, I do apologise if you think I haven't given enough coverage to the more shit ones. I'd rather talk about the earlier ones, which I have a lot to say about, and then mark out for Triple H and Undertaker. And then I'm going to do some marking out to one of these next 3 matches. Guess which one? So it's Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt from Hell in a Cell 2015. This was far better than it had any right to be. It's the spot where Reigns spears Wyatt from the apron through a table on the outside, and that looks great. Like, it's just an enjoyable romp, and it was a feud that needed it, and that's rare. That on a night where there's 2 cell matches, you could argue that both matches or both feuds needed a Hell in a Cell match. So, fair play to both men. Roman Reigns wins, which I didn't have a problem with, and it was inevitable, but I didn't have a problem with it. Again, much like most of these cell matches, the ones that aren't overly remarkable, they kind of just blend together, but they are still enjoyable to watch. It felt like just a good old-fashioned brawl. I don't think this match is neither like amazing nor is it bad. It's good. It's run-of-the-mill. It's enjoyable. It's worth a watch if you are watching that pay-per-view, just to go back and watch some old Hell in a Cell, or the latest Hell in a Cell pay-per-view before this year's. Watch it. It's fun. It's actually quite enjoyable, and I think both men put in a bit of a shift. So fair play to them, and I would give this match a 3-star rating. Now we're moving on to one of the best cell matches ever, in my opinion, and one of the best matches of 2015. It's Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker finally finishing the feud, which has been going on for 18 months, roughly, with Brock Lesnar beating the streak at WrestleMania 30. Taker coming back at Battleground 2015 and, using his new finisher of the kick to the nuts. Essentially cheating his way to win at SummerSlam, where Lesnar, whilst in the Hell's Gate, flips him off and then passes out. Great stuff. They book a Hell in a Cell match on the Brock Lesnar Go to Hell tour to finish that little October run for Lesnar. This match is brilliant. It is brilliant. It is so worth your time. So, whilst it's very different to the first Cell match they had, because that felt like a young man entering, the Cell, a monster, no doubt about it. But, Brock is a fighting machine. He's a totally different Brock Lesnar to 13 years prior. And I think it suits him. Lesnar inside Hell in a Cell. Considering he made his name in MMA fighting in a cage, it seems very apt, and it works for him. And he isn't just suplex. They work a great match in this, and it's brutal, and it's really, really quite inventive. So, both men bleeding, in my opinion, really adds to this. It's brilliant. I understand why they stopped the match to control the bleeding, but then Lesnar basically telling the doctor to piss off, sending him flying, and hitting in, move after move on Taker, and both men are bleeding really hard. It's great. It looks great. It feels like as brutal as a TV 14 cell match, but in the PG era. And I would argue it's possibly the only one that's happened in the PG era, which has had that effect. So I respect both men greatly for their work in this match. And the stuff, the final few minutes are absolutely outstanding. So what happens is Lesnar, basically, the cell and the ring aren't enough. Lesnar tears the canvas off the ring, leaving just the wooden planks. It's brilliant. It exposes the cell for what it is. Just a bunch of wooden planks and some canvas. And he takes a chokeslam onto the planks of wood. Now I know this probably wasn't painful to take a bump on, but it definitely looks amazing. And then takes a tombstone piledriver onto him. And Brock Lesnar, being the beast incarnate, kicks out of both of them. Oh, joyful. Then, to finish the match, despite the fact this match had featured hard way bleeding, doctors been sent flying, chokeslams onto exposed wooden planks on a broken ring, Taker gets low blowed to death by Brock Lesnar, and then F5'd onto the planks. And that ends it. And ends a brilliant match. And it doesn't need me to tell you this match is great. For you to go watch it, go watch this match. It's really, really good. It's not that long. It's maybe 17 minutes, maybe. But it is the right length. The brutality inside the cell is absolutely on point. The blood is, really a contributing factor to this match's quality. And whilst I don't necessarily think blood is, important in every match, but if you use it like it was used in this match, where it really added to the drama, it really makes a difference. And I think this is what pushes Brock Lesnar and Undertaker from Hell in a Cell last year into its own up there as one of the best cell matches ever, in my personal opinion. I understand why the doc has to step in and help with the bleeding, but the fact that they opened the door and let a doctor in to deal with the blood, it's wrong. It's wrong for a cell match. You lock him inside because whatever happens inside the cell. But the moment there's some blood, open the door! It kind of killed the buzz. But Brock, I think, got that feeling too and basically told the doctor to piss off. This match gets a 4.5 star rating from me. It's up there. We're moving on to the last match of this retrospective, Scuderia Rob Talks retrospective of Hell in a Cell. Are you still with me? Thank you very much for sticking with me so long. God, this is taking a long time to record. But we're nearly there. It's the latest cell match before Sunday. And it's Shane McMahon versus The Undertaker from WrestleMania 32. The most Frankenstein monster-esque match I have ever seen in my life. I think that's what Adam Blompier said on What Culture at the time. It's a Frankenstein's monster of a match. You take Undertaker over here, Shane McMahon here, at Hell in a Cell, WrestleMania, Killer of Fire. I think that was his quote for quote. And it's true, he's absolutely on point with that. It's so random, but come bell time, it kind of worked. I love Taker's entrance for some reason. I think because my feeling in my head was this was going to be Taker's last match, because even if he lost, the stipulation was he wouldn't wrestle at Mania again. But I just got this feeling, that this might be it. And with more, or maybe not, but definitely that we are very, very much near the absolute twilight of his career now. And if we are going to see him again doing this entrance at WrestleMania, it might be just one more time after this. Or it could be tonight, or that night, you never know. This match I remember being really high on this match at the time, but I did rewatch this recently for the sake of this retrospective, and they gas out so quick, but once they get outside the cell, I think it is quite enjoyable. But the only thing that can be mentioned really as a positive for this match, and it's a huge, huge positive, is Shane McMahon's bump off the roof. I have to talk about this, because I have to be honest. I've been saying for weeks that Shane McMahon is going to take a bump off the cell roof. He's going to jump off the roof of the cell. But come that moment whilst watching the match where Shane McMahon looks up to the top of the cell and he climbs it, I'm like, oh my God, he's actually doing it. It's almost that moment of, I think this is what's going to happen. But when it was happening, I was like, I don't want this to happen. I think I don't want him to get hurt. And it was scary. My heart was going like a rocket, and I think everyone's was. And he goes up top, and he takes such a long time. And I actually think that the weight that you have before he does eventually do the elbow drop off the top adds to the drama of the spot. Ugh, my heart was. I remember just thinking, just get it done. I'll please, and just so we know we were okay. It's just an incredible image. Shane McMahon jumping off the roof, and it feels like it takes him God knows how long to hit that table. Taker gets out of the way. Michael Cole ruins it with the call of, well, the call's actually quite okay, but it's the fact that he's reading it off a script which really annoys me. For the love of mankind, Shane just exploded through our table. But you can see him in the background reading it off a script. It's like, oh, Michael Cole. Oh, but it doesn't detract from the fact this spot is just amazing. And the best sell spot, for me anyway, since Foley's. Like, it's brilliant. It's ballsy. Shane McMahon is a madman. But I thank him for doing it because it provided us with one of the best sell matches. Cell match moment, sorry, and one of the best WrestleMania moments. If there's a WrestleMania moment that we're going to take away from that very weird show that happened in Dallas back in April, it's Shane McMahon jumping off the roof. It's an amazing spot, and it's probably why I would give this a 3-star rating. Taker winning is strange, especially what happened with Raw the next night with Shane McMahon actually getting in charge of the show anyway. It's all a bit weird, but yeah, I love that bump. It's just amazing. I remember watching it on loop. 3-star rating for Shane McMahon and The Undertaker. And that's it. We are up to date. What's going to happen on Sunday? 3 cell matches in one night. Sasha Banks and Charlotte for the women's title. Kevin Owens defending the title against Seth Rollins. And Rusev challenging Roman Reigns for the United States title. Where will these matches rank in amongst the history of these of Hell in a Cell? I'm looking forward to Sasha Banks and Charlotte very much, and the other two I can take or leave. But let's see where they rank in amongst history. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate the fact that you're still listening. This is a long video. This has been a lot. I've talked a lot. Bit of a marathon, so I really appreciate you sticking around. Thank you so much. What I'll do, just to save anyone kind of like, has to listen to, if you don't listen to the whole thing, I will put in the description when each cell match happens in me discussing it and the time, and you can just go to there, and that's fine. I understand it's a long time to sit and listen to some random dude mark out or be just disgusted by how bad certain matches were in this Hell in a Cell history, this retrospective. But if you have listened to it all the way, thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I promise I'm going to start making more videos. I need to get back into this. And leave a like and share it to your friends. I think as we get towards Sunday, it'd be nice for people just to, if they want to have a bit of a, trip down memory lane and to hear the thoughts of this fat random bloke from England, then share it with them and see what you think. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the pay-per-view on Sunday, and I'll be up with some more gaming videos in the weeks to come, so thank you very much. I think my next topic for my next Scuderia Rob Talks episode 2 will be, I think what I'm going to do is a top 10 list of what I think of the top 10 best Survivor Series matches of the 21st century, so from 2000 to 2015. So that'll be my next Scuderia Talks episode. So make sure to stick around for that. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Hell in a Cell!